Hello, my name is Juan Real. My school's currently on spring break, so I'll be conducting this video here at my house, and have no students with me. So I'll just be like when I want them to share or do things like that, I'll just kind of like skip through that time so we don't waste time. But today we're going to be learning about collisions, and more specifically, what happens in terms of energy, like what happens to energy when two objects collide. So our essential question is energy transferred or lost when objects collide? Right? So we're trying to figure it out, deduce that, and come to our conclusion. So our learning target is that we're going to be able to predict what happens when two objects collide. We'll also be able to ask questions or come up with questions that we still have once our experiment is done. So before we get started, let's go over the vocabulary word that we want to touch on for this activity. So I decided that we should focus on what a collision is. So in physics, a collision is, or also called an impact, is a sudden, forceful coming together in direct contact of two bodies, such as, for example, two billiard balls, a golf ball and a golf club, two cars, as we have here, two balls hitting together, basketball, right? Just two objects, a nail hitting or hammer hitting a nail. So those are some examples, and that's what a collision is. Just two bodies coming together into contact. So before we get started with the activity, I would ask my students, they're not here right now, but to do a quick write on any instances where they were either involved in a collision, they saw a collision. I think most of them will probably think of like maybe a car accident or something like that. But any type of collision, any type of objects coming into contact with each other. So they would do a quick write on that, and I would want them to be as detailed as they possibly can in terms of what happened in that situation. So I would give them some time. I'll probably give them about 2 minutes or so to get that done. And once they're done with that, they're gonna put their quick write to the side because we're gonna come back to that for our assessment. But I do want them to share with their classmates. So in their groups, once their quick write's over, they're going to discuss in their groups, talk about different instances where they saw a collision or they came in contact with a collision, because I want them to get more ideas about what a collision is and where we see them in our everyday lives. So like I wouldn't have come into my head unless I read it that when a hammer hits a nail, that's a collision, right? And there's energy being transferred. So that's the point of that discussion. I want them to get different ideas from other students. So now with that being said, let's get our experiment started. So I have these two Hot Wheels right here, right? So in order for us, let me make sure we can see them. Okay, I'll put them here. In order for us to really focus on collisions, we're gonna have to do it ourselves. So what we're going to be doing is my students are going to watch me do the experiment. Then they're gonna come up to conclusions, or we'll talk about what happened in the collision, right? So we can understand what happened to the energy, right? So first, let's just go ahead and get started with the collision. Let's see if we can do this right. Okay. Now, we first started with this car, right? The first thing I did was give this car, this white car, energy, right? I hit it, I moved it, and I gave it energy. Then once it came into contact with the blue car, what happened to the white car? So at this point, I would pose that question to my students. What happened to the white car when it came in contact with the blue car? You know, I would want them to discuss in their groups, and then maybe we'll just go around calling like maybe 2 students, right? So the answer I'm looking for is that the car stopped, right? So what does that tell us? Does the car have energy? If the car is not moving anymore, does it have energy? Yes, no, why not? So that's what we would discuss as a class. And then I would pose the question, what happened to the blue car when the white car hit it? It was at a standstill, meaning does it have energy? Does it not have energy? If it's not moving, does it have energy? Okay, then what happened to it? I would have them discuss that. The answer I would want back is the car moved, right? So it went from not moving to moving. So if the car starts moving, that means it has what? So I'd want them to reply, energy, right? So where did that energy come from? That would be our next question to discuss. I'll let them do a little quick 30-second discussion with their group, come back, call on a few students. Where did that energy come from? Obviously, we would want us to say it came from the white car, right? What then? My last question I would pose to them is, why did the blue car stop? What caused it to stop? It didn't hit anything else. It just stopped going on the table, right? So where did that energy go? And obviously that would get more into like friction and stuff. So I would just kind of want to touch on that a little bit. And then our discussion would end there, right? I would give them a little brief description of friction, but obviously that's not necessarily part of our standard, but just to get them thinking for future references. So now that we did our experiment, right? So we hit our cars. I would want them to go. This is where the assessment comes in. I would want them to go back to their quick write and now elaborate on their instance or their situation where they talked about a collision that they had experienced, right, in their everyday lives. Now that they know about energy and how energy works, they can, how energy works in terms of like a collision, now they can kind of give more details as to what happened in that collision in terms of the energy. Where did the energy start? Then where was it transferred to? How did it stop? Right? So that would be our quick little activity or lesson on collisions and energy. Like I said, that would be our assessment. They would turn in their quick write after that. That way I can go over them. But just something little informal just to see that they got the concept of it. Obviously, another thing I want to point out, I wouldn't just do it with these 2 cars. I would want to use other objects, right? I don't have them here right now, but I was obviously to not make the video longer either, but I would want to do it with different objects as well. So that would be my short little lesson activity on collisions and energy. Thank you.